All right. Hey, y'all. Before we get into this episode of the podcast, there are a few things I need to address. First, some of you may have noticed it's been a little bit since I've last posted an episode, and it's really just because I've been way, way too busy and I took on just a little too much at the time that I was trying to do everything. I'm both a grad student and a teacher, and it had gotten into prepping, well, first year teacher, and it got into prepping for finals, both as a student and a teacher, and that all happened at the same time. And I had to make the decision, I need to take a good, healthy step back away from all of this creative stuff I'm trying to do. Because also, on top of, trying to do the podcast and being a student and a teacher, I also stream. Um, I am also part of a band, and I have to, uh, there's music that I have to write for that, and there's rehearsals I have to go to. So there are a lot of activities I'm trying to do. Oh, and I was also coaching the dance and cheer squad at the school I work at. Needless to say, I was very busy. And as much as I enjoy doing the podcast, the it also took a lot out of me. And in order to continue to produce a quality of work that I was happy with putting out, I had to take a step back. The episode you're about to see is one that was shot around the same time that I shot the first two episodes. It's just taken me a while to take a look at it, get the editing together, and post it. I had a lot of difficulty with recording it, and I had to record the video separate from the audio, and that was a whole thing. And then there were multiple issues with the cameras, and then different issues with the microphones, and eventually I ended up having to do a lot of cutting and pasting and syncing and resyncing, and then it finally all came together. And that was a lot of stuff I didn't want to do back in February, March. It's currently the start of June right now, so things have finally calmed down, and I finally found the time to get to the editing. I plan on getting a lot done this summer because things are slowing down a little bit. But I do plan on getting some more podcast episodes recorded, and there are also a lot of other creative projects that I've been working on for a while now that, if everything goes as I would like, those will be released as well throughout the summer in a somewhat decent schedule. But we know how easily plans can get disheveled. um, but that's part of the process. And part of the process is knowing when to take a break, which is what I did. So, without further ado, we're going to jump right into this episode. It is with one of my oldest friends. I've known her since I was 5, 4. It's been a while. It's been a good long time that I've known her. She is absolutely incredible, super smart, very creative, and she has a lot of really great things to say. So let's lend her our ears. So I guess let's start out nice and fun. Give me a fun fact that you know.
A fun fact that I know in general.
Yeah.
A fun fact that I know. Well, I'm very into my work right now, which is teaching people how to create affirmations and helping them achieve their goals. So a fun fact that I know is that with repetition, if you repeat things to yourself over and over, you can actually physically rewire your neural pathways into new beliefs.
Wow. The brain is so powerful.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? They don't even have they haven't even it's like I like to compare the brain to Wakanda. Remember how in if you watch the Marvel movies, remember
Hmm.
how in Marvel or in the what was it? Lord help me, the TV show, movies, everything. In the Black Panther movie, the first one, they were talking about vibranium and how it's like they haven't even scratched the surface
Hmm.
of what vibranium can do. That is the mind, but like on crack. Like literally mind, because they've done so much research on the brain and there's so many new things they keep discovering about the brain because our brain is actually one of those things like nobody even knows like where consciousness comes from. Now, if you're a believer and you believe in the Holy Spirit and you read your Bible, you believe that God created all things and
Right.
our consciousness comes from God. We were made in his image. We listen to the Holy Spirit. That's how we tap into our spiritual realm. But from a scientific standpoint, they have not been able to even explain where consciousness really comes from.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
And especially with dreams too. Such an area of science that, people are going, well, we thought this one thing, and then now we don't know what we think.
Yes. And it's literally everything's like that with the brain. And it's really exciting though, because it allows us to sort of have these different I want to say like experiments, like we start to go on these journeys when you're cognizant and you pay attention to the way that your brain works and how you respond to, whatever it is, whether it's your habits or whether it's your emotional reactions, like there's such a landscape for experimentation and finding ways, just different ways to discover ourselves because we're each so different.
Yeah.
And the fact that the brain is so powerful means that our capabilities as human beings is beyond what we can even imagine.
Yeah. Absolutely. So is this, in terms of being fascinated by the brain and what people are capable of, is that something that, you yourself are passionate about, or is that, one of those things that you can go down a rabbit hole? Was it one of those types of things?
Well, it's becoming a growing newfound passion. I was just explaining to someone the other day that it's my practice has become twofold, right? Because you have the physical, or maybe not, yeah, that is physical. You have the physical slash, practical piece of accountability and achieving, right? Which is like kind of like the psychology piece, like, what creates habits, what makes someone have a goal, create consistent action and actually achieve their goal, right? And that's pretty straightforward. At the end of the day, you do it or you don't.
Right.
And we also have sort of this other school of thought with it, right? Especially when it comes to developing affirmations and paying attention to the law of attraction, right? It's Proverbs 23:7, as a man thinketh, That's sort
Hmm.
of like the metaphysical, like, okay, that's great. I have these goals and these things I'm wanting to achieve, but then there's also my mindset and how I'm going about it. Because you can give two different people the same game plan, but with two different mindsets, each person is going to get different results. And they're also going to see different things along that journey based on what they're thinking and how they're attracting things into their environment. So that's the other piece that I've started to explore. And yes, that side of it can absolutely be a rabbit hole.
So you said that you work within, I guess, the affirmations industry, or what? Is there a better
I
title?
would love to pioneer that, the affirmations industry. Thank you. I'll take that on. Um I would really categorize the umbrella under self-development and self-growth.
Okay.
Um, I personally do a lot of coaching. I run I Am Academy, which is an organization built to coach and support creatives. Our specific niche is creatives, but that can expand to a lot of different areas. So we welcome people of all backgrounds, but um, specifically in our organization, we've been able to coach and help a lot of people to, like I said in the beginning, rewire their neural pathways and start to think in a different direction just by the power of the tongue or by writing down daily affirmations.
All right. Is there, have you noticed trends within affirmations that people tend to need, or ones that people respond to the most? And if so, what are they?
Yes. I think the two most I guess you could say trending, but at the moment I think the two most like needed categories that people are looking to develop are their finances, right? We see a lot of abundance and finance affirmations. People are always speaking. Bob Proctor, he's a really good resource for that one. But then I see a lot of growing need for self-love affirmations too. That's a really big one. I think a lot of people that are sort of struggling, especially coming out of COVID and 2020 and that whole quarantine experience. A lot of people kind of saw a side of themselves that would not have been revealed to them otherwise. And so now it's a self-love factor. It's like, how do I wake out of bed in the morning and like know that I'm awake for a reason, you know?
Right. Do you think that there's a connection between the popularity of the finance affirmations and the self-love affirmations? Do you think that they go together, or do you think that it's something that, oh, a lot of people wish their financial situation were different, and a lot of people also would like to improve their self-love? Do you think that they're two separate things, or do you think that they're connected?
I think they can be separate and they can be connected. Everybody's situation is different. What I've noticed among my clients personally, is that it's normally one or the other. However, they're usually dealing with both in some way. Um, we just started a division of I Am Academy called the I Am Academy Royals, which is a networking group meant for people to come together to discuss finances, trade ideas. We have a speaker that comes in once a month to give us some mindset that's already achieved in the financial arena. But what I found among that group is that a lot of those people that are working towards these financial goals, even if they're doing well, I mean, it's a holistic approach, that we encourage. So, your finances might be going well, but it's like, okay, let's take it to the next level, like let's not get complacent. And, while we're working on that, yeah, we're probably going to need some self-love.
Right.
I've discovered in my own experience that um a lot of times my finances start improving when my self-love improves, because what happens is I start to respect myself, and out of self-respect comes discipline, right? Because
Right.
if you're actually telling yourself, okay, hey, this is what I'm going to spend this week, and I'm going to have enough respect for my budget, myself, and my finances, that I'm going to stay in integrity to what I've said. And it really works for everything. It works the same way for working out. I'm going to stay in integrity to this workout habit that I've said that I'm going to create a lifestyle change. And there's something that happens in your brain when you start doing that often. You start to create your own self-belief. And goes back to our neural pathways. You start to solidify that belief. And in turn, you're training your brain that you follow through with your goals, which then it's like, I used to love a term one of my old mentors used to say, it's like a self-looking ice cream cone. It becomes just this cycle and a pattern for you that you end up just doing that in other areas. And it's the same for the reverse, for the flip side. When you start lying to yourself or you don't stay in integrity with what you say you're going to do, it works the same way in the opposite direction.
Gotcha. So as far as affirmations, do you see it as the kind of thing that, with they say practice makes perfect. Do you see affirmations as the kind of thing that eventually a person can get to a point where they don't need affirmations anymore? Or do you think it's something like learning where you never stop learning, it just there's always something new to discover?
Yeah. Well, that's an amazing question, because I've actually had that discussion with a couple of people, both very successful people and people that are sort of still learning as well. And I've found that it really varies. It really depends on you and your journey. Some of the more successful people, I've talked to very successful people that don't need affirmations anymore, or in some cases never really used them, never really felt like there was a big benefit for them. But by the same token, I've also met other successful people that's what they do. it's affirmations. Like the affirmations are what carried them from not being successful to being successful. So and maintaining that success. So, all that to be said, I think that it really just depends on the person. I think we're all wired differently. And I have actually experienced, so in the last few days, I was actually taking a little bit of a break from my daily affirmations. I've been speaking daily affirmations consistently, religiously in the morning and at night for about almost a year and a half now. So doing that every day, it's very good, but it's almost like when they say when you work out and you need to take a little bit of a break and let your muscles
Mm-hmm.
breathe so that they can come back stronger.
Right.
Um, so it's funny you asked that question. I just came off of a 3-day fast off of breathing from my affirmations, because they say that actually when you are projecting vocally what you want into, I like to call it God's universe, into God's universe, there is actually something scientific about what goes on with that, like that vibration, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're getting very quantum physics here. It's what I'm getting into. But you give it space to breathe, right? It's the same concept as your muscle. Um, and I came back to it for the first time this morning, and there was sort of like this fresh take on some of the statements that I'd been saying. I'm like, you know what? I could probably condense this. Like, I could probably take this part out. I can replace these words. There was a freshness that happened when I came back to my statements this morning because I had given them space to breathe. So I think that would be something to consider, is that, I think there are periods of time. I mean, there's affirmations I definitely do not say anymore that I started saying back, when I first started the practice, because
Mm-hmm.
I've already goals, or it's become so, etched in my identity that I'm good. I don't need to say it anymore. But there's other things that I still want to work towards. And so for me, the affirmations work.
You said so many things uh there, and wrote down so many follow-up questions that I have for you. The one I'll start with, uh, so what are some of your goals then that you're trying to achieve, accomplish, conquer, obliterate?
I obliterate. Well, I will tell you, the first thing I tell all of my clients is that I do my best to keep the word try out of my vocabulary, because I'm like Yoda. I do or do I do not do. I don't try. I do. So that being said, what I have been working on and what I've been accomplishing, I have a lot of, I've been switching my goals. I remember when I first started this process, it was like, I just want to lose weight. It was like, I just want to, like, get in shape, or I just want to be I want to have my car. Like, it was very to concrete goals that like had an end,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yep.
Because you can set a goal weight for like 50 pounds. It's awesome. Like, what about when you lose 50 pounds? Like, then what you're gonna
Yeah.
do?
Or it's like, did you lose weight, but you still can't, exercise? Like you're still bad at exercising.
Well, yeah, there's got to be something, like, once you get to that defined goal, you got to then create some sort of maintenance plan, or else what's going to happen is you're going to recede, right? So what a lot of people do, and what I did in the past, I use weight as such an easy example for everything. I lost a certain amount of weight. Everyone noticed. It was like, yay, Kim lost weight, woohoo. And then, shortly thereafter, I was like, great, I lost the weight. Cool, done with that.
Now
Stop
what?
working, stop exercising, stop eating well, and then of course a lot of the weight came back, because it was like,
No way.
it's crazy how it works like that. So that's another thing I always like to tell people, is that, you might have these goals, but start creating goals that are a little bit more lifestyle focused, as opposed to, one thing that you get to hit and then boom, you're done. Because
Mm-hmm.
that changes your mindset too. So, and again, this is all about identity. So I started to create an identity around being somebody who just works out every day. Somebody who just goes for a walk because I know I need sunlight. I need vitamin D. And even if it's a quick 5-minute walk to go get the mail, I'm going for a walk daily, right? I encourage myself to be the kind of person that you know, pays attention to what I eat. One of the things that I'm working on actively is taking sugar way down out of my diet. Now luckily I keep up with my physical appointments and blood work. They say I'm great, but there's still prevention. What is it they say? Prevention's better than a cure.
Yeah.
So those are some of my health goals, just being consistent with working out. And like you said, mind muscle connection is important. Actually paying attention to your technique and how you're actually using your form if you're strength training. I have a big goal this year to start focusing more on Spanish.
Muy bien.
Sí, sí, okay, hablas español, sí, yo recuerdo. And I really thought I was gonna move to Miami for a while, and which I still might. That's still in the cards. But even beyond that, my mom, her family, as you know, Faith, was Honduran, or is Honduran. So that's been a big passion point for me because I've always wanted to connect with my Honduran roots, as well as my Yoruba roots too, Nigerian. But I already know a lot of Spanish, so I'm tackling that first, and Yoruba's
Mhm.
coming too.
That's cool. I didn't know you were that was an attempt that language wise. So have you started yet, or is it still
Spanish or Yoruba?
Yoruba?
Yoruba. Then I know a few words, but like it's just words that I know. I don't necessarily know what or remember what they mean. I have so much
Hmm.
family. Again, I mean, these are languages growing up. People were encouraging me to learn, and being a kid, just kind of rejected it.
Yep.
Nobody pushed too hard. And then, you get older and you're like, dang, that I probably could have invested in that when I was younger and it would have helped a lot.
Yep.
And to be honest, there was a part of me that was rejecting my roots when I was growing up. I wanted to be American. Like I wanted to be, like the people I looked like, growing up in a predominantly white,
Yep.
area. Part of me rejected my roots. And, now that I'm older and, I finally am getting to the point where I am embracing them and embracing my family and where I come from and my heritage. Yeah, it's a big mindset shift. And a part of that is finding ways to learn about the culture, especially when I have people in my family that are part of
Right.
it.
So, in terms of you just mentioned about identity. So, do you feel as though you you've made strides to, I guess, have more of that self-love in terms of your identity as you've gotten older?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that has been paramount. Um, and even beyond just getting older, I think it's also just having different life experiences, that start to make you realize that as long as we're in this life, you have one body, right? That one consciousness that we talked about. And it's really up to you to choose and decide what you're going to do with this time, and the way I see it, because I love thinking from an eternal perspective. It's like our lives are like, one of our fingernails. And then when we go to heaven and we go spend time with the Lord, like it's like the rest of our arm is like by comparison, so I think it's really important to just be mindful and aware of your identity, not just in terms of what you're doing throughout the day, because obviously that is a really big piece of it, but it's also like, who are you showing up as
Hmm.
throughout? Who It doesn't matter if you're in a job you love or if you're in a job you hate. It doesn't matter if you're pursuing, your passion project actively, or if you're just doing something to pay the bills. Are you showing up to whatever environment that you're walking into, like grounded in who you're meant to be? And if you're not there yet, what are the things that the person that is the best version of you would be doing in those environments? Once you identify that and then apply that and actually start doing those things, that's when you start seeing breakthroughs.
So then what does growth mean to you?
Um, Honestly, it can vary depending on the person,
But
because
for you personally.
for me personally,
Hmm.
okay. So for me to see growth, or you said, what does growth mean? That's a good question. Okay, so for me, growth means change in a positive direction. Because I am a huge proponent and believer of the fact that, you can You can change and not grow, but there's no, what is it? You can change and not grow, but there's no growth without change. Is that it?
I mean,
Let
it
me
sounded good.
sound good, right? There's no growth. Yeah, that's what it is. You can change without growth, but you can't grow without change. I had to do the math. Yeah. And it's true because, I see it a lot. I've seen people change over time. Are they growing? No. If you're growing positively though, to me that's the growth that you want. And that's growth that I want.
Right.
So um I think that makes a big difference. And then also, one thing that I've changed in my perspective around growth is that I've given myself a lot of grace ahead of time. I think something that I didn't do as well before, like in previous glow ups, I guess you can say that I've had, is that I used to look at the parts of myself that maybe failed in the past, and I used to judge her. And what it led to was that the times or the days where I did get defeated and I wasn't able to keep up that 1% best version of myself, I would always, it would lead to a downward spiral of judging myself and thinking of myself critically, as opposed to saying, you know what, I've already forgiven my future self for falling off the bandwagon, because it could happen. I mean, we're
Right.
human, we're not
Mm-hmm.
perfect.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I know that, whatever, there could be a time. There could be a time I might have kids or something and have to let go of some of the habits that I've been doing when I was single. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's always going to be shifts in life. And I think it's all about giving yourself grace ahead of time, so that when you know that you are going to have to take time and just rework your schedule or rework your habits or whatever you're going to need to reevaluate at that given time, like, just allow yourself already, just forgive yourself already, because it could happen, it could not happen, but
Right.
either way, again, it goes back to that identity. Like, who are you being? If you're being in alignment with what you've already established as your identity and who you want to show up as in the world, then that is like all the battle right there.
I love that. So to close out our time, I want to hit you with 5 rapid fire questions. Uh, and just answer with what I guess the first thing that pops up in your mind. All right. So if you can move to a different country under ideal conditions, so let's pretend that, war doesn't exist and things like that, which country would you choose?
I was still, so this isn't a country, it's a state. I would still choose United States, but Hawaii specifically.
Okay. Groovy. All right. What is the least expensive thing you own that you will never get rid of?
Oh gosh. My wallet.
Good choice. Um, what's something that you wish would become a trend?
Self-love.
All right. Who was your childhood crush, like celebrity crush?
My gosh. I say Chris Brown before the Rihanna incident. For
Got to
sure.
tack that last part on there.
I mean, I know we all, well, not all of us. I know a lot of people forgave him, but it's true. He was a big crush of mine. And then the Rihanna thing went down, and I was like, I think I'm gonna
All right. If you could interview any animal at the zoo, which animal would it be, and what would you ask?
Oh my gosh, the lion. How does he stay in the cage all day if he's meant to be free and in the wild?
All right. And then last question. If there was something you never had to clean ever again, what would you pick?
My bathroom.
Girl, that's a whole vibe. I feel that.
Look, look, I have, like, my standards have been elevated over the years. I keep a very nice bathroom now, but if it was up to me and I didn't have to touch it ever again,
Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be a nice Zen place, like there shouldn't be problems in the bathroom. It's
in my that's everywhere. It would be so nice to just be like, oh, somebody else is gonna take care of that. Which that will be my life. It has been my life before. It'll be my life again. So absolutely.
well, thank you so much for hopping on this
Thank
call
you
with
for
me.
having this. It's been so enjoyable. We definitely need to, yeah, we'll do this again.